Forte cazzone con un stemma a rete, una cupulella che vi si era aizzata, passa scampanianna pattuleta, con mano a papà te fa guardare. Tu fa l'americano, americano, americano, senta a me chi t'ho fa. Tu vuoi vivere alla moda, ma se bevi whisky e soda, poi ti senti disturbato. Tu abballo rock and roll, tu gioca a baseball, hai sorte per caramella, chi te li dà la borsetta di mamma. Tu fa l'americano, americano, americano, ma si nati in Italia, senta a me non c'è sta niente a fa. Ok napolitan, tu fa l'americano, tu fa...
Renato Carosone, a genius, a musical genius, when Italian music was greatly present in the US jet set, perfectly intermingled, very, very cool. One influenced the other, and there was great respect. A magical period, and Renato was one of the protagonists. His music is very particular. His, we could say, signature is a mix between swing, jazz, and traditional music from Naples. He made a special sound out of that together with his other musicians. He toured the world. We're going to see a lot of little aspects and interesting things because he is a protagonist, which is clearly strictly connected to Italian culture, but I think it's very interesting to share this. Also because a lot of his songs, we all know them, like Tubo Falamericano, as you have heard in the beginning. Okay, we're going to go through his main phases of his life very briefly and listen to a few of his greatest hits. So let's start. It's beginnings. Renato Carosone, or actually his real name was Carosone, was born in Naples in 1920. And where did his inspiration come from? His father. Because he played a little bit, he had some instruments which greatly fascinated the little Renato. He started actually to learn to study the piano at 7. Already he was able to play at 7. In fact, after just a few years, because we're in the early 20th century in Naples, I mean, kids started to work immediately, or they could study if they had enough money. He started to play at puppet shows, doing the accompaniment, the piano background for the puppet shows. So he started off that, but he soon understood that there were too many musicians like him. There was plenty around. So he decided to go and study at the conservatory, mainly piano. And at that point, he knew that he would have had a much more higher skill plus a diploma in his hands, and at that point beat all the competition around him. Let's skip ahead a few years with his periodo africano in Africa. In this period of time, Mussolini reached his pinnacle of his power. He founded the fascist party and he set aside everyone else. So the dictatorship, the regime was established. And he went in Africa because there was a colony there in Eritrea, a fascist colony. So he started his experience in a completely different world, also to gain some money. At that point, World War II exploded and he was enrolled. But he knew that he wasn't going to survive. So he escaped and started to play in different nightclubs all over Africa, in that part of Africa, northern part, where he learned a lot of those American tunes. Because clearly in these nightclubs, you have to think of important nightclubs, very fancy at that time, where the greatest influence was coming from American swing, obviously, where he learned a lot of that, with that little touch also of Africa, which we will find also in other tunes in the future. So he learned a lot. He had gained a lot of experience there. And in fact, this was going to be very handy in the future. He also got married in Africa with a Venetian girl from Venezia, and they waited the end of the war. Subsequent phase. Back to Naples. He finally goes back to Italy, and here, after some time, in 1949, he creates his first trio, the Trio Renato Carosone, with Gigi Di Giacomo at the drums, who is going to stay with him almost for all his career, together with the Dutch Van Wood, which is going to be the voice of the trio. So they start promoting themselves. They try to find a label. They try to go to Fonicetra, which was one of the most famous in Italy at that time, but they say no, there's a denial. But they insist and go to Pathé. And in fact, they sign with that label and they're going to collaborate for quite a long time. They're going to start releasing the first 78s and then after some time, 45s, obviously. And this starting in 1950. We then fall in our next phase, a bigger band, where Renato becomes rapidly very famous, also thanks to television. He starts doing some appearances. He creates different groups, different ensembles. Well, mainly he forms in 1953 a quartet with the guitarist Franco Cerri, and then finally his famous sextet starting in 1956 with Piero Giorgetti as the voice, because unfortunately Vanderwood went away, Raf Montrasio at guitar, and Gianni Tozzi and Tony Grottola for the saxophones. Fantastic. And at that point, he was launched to stardom. So during this time, we have the first success period, we could say. Huge success in Italy, as we said, and we have his first huge hit in 1954 with the beautiful, beautiful song of Maruzzella with the lyrics of Enzo Bonagura. And I have here an original copy, 45, as you can see, Pathé. Here it is, and let's listen this amazing piece. Obviously, if YouTube is going to block something, you're not going to find it. But I'll try to put the files in download if YouTube blocks anything here. Okay. Clearly, this is an original, so it's going to be a little bit noisy, unfortunately.
Poi chi sente e chi mo canta appresso a me, poi patramente s'affaccia luna per vedere, per tutta sta marina da procida resina. Si dice guarda là, una femmina che fa Maruzzella, Maruzzella, ti mise dall'occhio mare e mi mise in pietà, a me non dispiacere.
So he has this intuition of funding, merging these traditional sounds of Naples with something a little more new at that time, swing, jazz. So, as we said in the beginning, that's why he exploded. Plus, there is this fantastic band which looks very American. That's why a lot of people just go crazy, especially in the Italian television programs on Rai, but not only, as we will see. In fact, he will also be famous because he will introduce all these little noises, voices, effects. Well, it may seem something childish, but at that time, it really created a connection with young people, and not only. I mean, there was just something magical going on. In fact, I played Carosone. I usually play a lot of him with my daughter, who goes crazy for him. Now we reach the subsequent phase, international success. And where does Renato have this huge leap ahead? When he, by chance, meets Nicola Salerno, who is also known as Nisa. Nicola and Salerno, Nisa, who creates the most amazing lyrics in so many of his songs and so many of his 45s releases. And one of the most famous is Tu vuoi fare l'americano, You Want to Be an American, which was, they say, composed in just 15 minutes. There were the lyrics, and Renato just took a look. There was this creativity in the air. He just has this incredible skill, and he created it in just a few minutes. It's incredible, and it's clearly one of his biggest success, but not his biggest success abroad, actually. In fact, his number one hit, which stayed for 2 weeks in the hit parade in the US, not even in Italy, incredible, was Torero, the Matador, you could say, which has this sounds, Spanish sounds. Let's see if I have it here. Here it is. Just a little piece. I like it, but it's not one of my favorites. But this went number one in the US. Incredible. For 2 entire weeks.
Tu Pierto suona in coppia e giornalette e mamma ti minaccia e padre ti s'arraggia. Ti fanno girare capo sti fumette guardando dentro specchio, vuoi fare il coreador come fanno a Santa Fe, come fanno ad Hollywood e questa scusa in uno studio più. Oh torero, ti si piazzato in capo sto sombrero.
So as you can hear, it's a little bit of cha-cha, also excellent for dancing, as you can imagine. So the success is evident. But also other very famous songs. Now, I don't have the ones I want to let you listen now. I have it on CD, which I'll recommend. I'll give you a recommendation on what to buy at the end of the video, if you're interested. And let's listen now to one of my favorites, actually, which comes around in this time. Now, Tu vuoi fare l'americano was 56, and now we're going to listen to Mambo Italiano, which is actually it was released in 1955.
Che avuta, chiarata, scordammo ciò passato, si menava la paesa. È ritornato a Napoli, dopo 10 anni a Broccoli, Pasquale americano, ballando il mambo all'Italia. Hey, hey mambo, mambo italiano, hey mambo, mambo italiano, go, go, go. You make up Siciliano, all you calibrated to the mambo like a crazy with. Hey mambo, don't wanna tarantella, hey mambo, no more mozzarella, hey mambo, mambo italiano, try an ensalata with the fish and bacala and then. Hey, oompa! I love how you dance, rumba, but take some other vice, paisano. Learn how to mambo. If you're gonna be a square, you ain't gonna wear. Hey mambo, mambo italiano. Hey mambo, mambo italiano. Go, go, Joe. Chick like a Giovanni. Hello, Kissy, did you get a happy in the fits when you mambo italiano?
You got the picture. All very catchy, ready to dance at. Fantastic. And I'm sure you've heard these in your youth, at least I think. In Italy, we all did. So he starts to tour, or tour, as you say in other places in the US. So he starts going around in America, starting from Cuba, South America, North America, all over the place. All the way to one of the most important phases, points, the apex probably of his career, when in 1958 he is playing at the Carnegie Hall in New York. Now remember that only classical music up until then was allowed in the Carnegie Hall, except for Benny Goodman, okay? So after Benny Goodman, swing music, popular music at that time, Renato was the only one to have access, and he was a foreigner. Incredible. So he was constantly creating songs, also rearranging famous songs. Like there's one which I adore, which is Piccolissima Serenata, which is not one of his hits, his songs, but his version just has something magical, and I want to share this with you.
Mi farò prestare un soldino di sole perché regalare lo voglio a te. Lo potrai posare sui biondi capelli, quella nube d'oro accarezzerò. Questa piccolissima serenata con un fil di voce si può cantar. Ogni innamorato all'innamorata la sussurrerà, la sussurrerà.
Fantastic. Okay. But during this period, he also creates, I think, something completely different from all the rest. Just a new sound, which has greatly coming, the roots, the influence coming from the Middle East, because he began also to tour the Middle East, something very difficult, strange to do at that time, but he did for a lot of times. North Africa, America, clearly Europe, but also the Middle East. And there is a great influence sometimes in this song, also because Naples does have that Middle Eastern influence in his culture, in his song, in his tradition. Hence, we find this also because he had that experience in Africa and his tour. And he creates one of my favorite songs, which there is also actually a famous video with John Turturro, with Fiorello, which is a famous DJ singer here in Italy, presenter, where they do this song. It's very funny. But apart from that, I mean, it's a new sound. I'm really, really shocked when I heard this for the first time, because it's something completely different, very modern, which I simply adore. Caravan Petrol.
Caravan petrol, caravan petrol, caravan petrol.
Da Napoli, Napoli petrolifera.
Caravan petrol, caravan.
Ma già affittato un camel, ma già accattato un turbante rinascente con pennacchio rosso e blu. Con via Scammanio da Murriella, cerco petrolio americano, mentre ballano i beduini, mentre cantano i tribù. Come si bella a cavalla stu camella con vino, che l'altra colla con turbante un archile. Quasi curioso mentre scava stu portu, si scorda della non è cosa che il petrolio non ci sta.
Allah, Allah, Allah.
Ma chi t'ha fatto fa? Come si bella a cavalla stu camella con vino, che l'altra colla con turbante un archile.
Together with this, on the B-side, there's also another very famous song from them, O Sarracina, which was also a great success. 1958.
O Sarracina,
In any case, this is the phase where he reaches the pinnacle of his success. In fact, we jump to our next phase, which, incredibly, on the 7th of September, 1959, Renato Carosone announces his retirement. Yes, incredible. At the apex of his success, nobody expected this. It was a complete shock. He had the last tours he had to do. He went again to the Carnegie Hall, and he also went to the Ed Sullivan Show, which is one of the most famous TV shows in America at that time. Even the Beatles got famous in America, thanks also to Ed Sullivan Show in the future, obviously. So everyone could not believe this, and he did not give an explanation. He just said that after his last concerts, he would have retired. And so he did. He did this. Amazing, also, this decision. Our last phase, 1975, Reloaded. What happens? Renato Carosone comes back. Yes. After 16 years, he decides to come back. But clearly, it's not the same scenery anymore. And he explains why he went away. He didn't do that in 1959. And finally, he says that while he was touring in America, he saw incredible musicians at the beginning, at the inception of their career, like the Platters. And he knew that that type of music was going to explode in just a few months. And he also knew that he couldn't have competed with that. He didn't have those skills. He didn't have that sound, obviously. The urlatori, he called them, the shouters. So that's, and it's true. I mean, everything was about to change completely in the 60s. And he would have been obsolete and rapidly go down the hill. So he did probably a smart move. But when everything passed, he came back. Fortunately, he did a lot of TV shows in Italy. He started touring again, but obviously it's a different phase. I mean, there's not that incredible success that he had anymore. And he continued. He went on until practically the end of his life, where unfortunately he left us in 2001. So I want to leave you now with a recommendation. There's dozens of CDs out there. Also LPs. He did release a few albums, but clearly we're talking mainly of 78s or 45s, which are decent, but you're never going to hear them clearly. I think it's a wise choice to go via CD, and I think this is one of the best. This is digitally remastered, nice and clean, and I think this is one of the best releases you can find. There's a lot of songs. 25, you'll find the links here below in the video description to the various affiliations on Amazon, okay? And what else can I say? Let's say goodbye to Renato with one last song. Once again, Tu vuoi fare l'americano, obviously.
Porte cazzone con un stemma a rete, una cupolella che vi si era alzata, passa scampanianna pattuleta.
Ciao Renato.
Well guys, if you're enjoying my videos and you're enjoying my channel, please consider to subscribe by clicking the black and white logo here below. Also, don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll never miss an episode and you will become a true member of the analog community.